Hello, and in this video I'm going to look at some language connected with the word patience. Now sometimes there are part 1 questions about patience, but this language could also be used in part 2 and part 3. So the word patience means the ability to stay calm, to not get annoyed in situations that can be quite difficult. The adjective is patient, so this means to accept or tolerate delays or problems or suffering without becoming annoyed or anxious. Anxious means when you're worried because you might be late for something, so you stay patient. For example, when I was younger, I wasn't particularly patient, but as I have got older, I have become infinitely more patient. Instead of saying much more patient, I've used much more complex language here, infinitely more patient, and it means a lot more patient. So the opposite of patient is impatient. Often when we have an adjective beginning with the letter P, the negative is im, like possible, impossible. And impatient means to have or to show a tendency to be quickly irritated or annoyed. Irritated is another word for annoyed, so both of these mean angry. For example, I'm generally patient. However, I get quite impatient when I am stuck in a traffic jam. Nowadays, people get very annoyed very quickly in traffic. We have a word for this, we call it road rage. This means road anger, road rage. And so when people are getting angry, it's because they are impatient. A synonym for this is oversensitive. Now, oversensitive can mean that you cry very easily, but it can also mean that you get annoyed very easily. So if somebody says something to you and you quickly get annoyed, you're oversensitive. If I'm particularly tired, then I tend to be more oversensitive than usual. So often when people are tired and somebody says something, they get annoyed quickly, and this means to be oversensitive. Easygoing is very similar to patient. If you're easygoing, you're very relaxed, you're very tolerant in your attitude or your manner, so how you are. For example, on the whole, I'm quite easygoing, but I get annoyed when people are late for meetings. So in part 1, if you are asked a question such as, were you patient when you were younger? You can talk about maybe being impatient when you were younger and more oversensitive, but as you've grown older, you've become more patient and more easygoing. So these are very useful words, particularly for that part 1 topic. But remember, you can use them in part 2 if you are describing a situation. Describe a situation in which you were late for something, for example. So I was stuck in traffic. I became increasingly impatient. I'm very oversensitive when I'm delayed because of traffic jams. Normally I'm an easygoing person, but on that occasion I got very irritated. So it's very useful to have lots of language for other topics as well. So let's have a look at a couple of phrases connected with patience. So to lose your temper. This means to become very angry. So when somebody gets very annoyed and they start shouting, this is called to lose your temper. I very rarely lose my temper nowadays. I lost it much more when I was younger, but I've learnt to control it now. So if you control your temper, it means you don't get really angry and you don't lose your temper. So very useful language for questions connected with patience. To try or test your patience. Something that makes it very difficult for you to stay calm. There used to be a part 2 topic, describes something that annoys you. So you can talk about something that tries or tests your patience. So you're still trying to stay calm, but you are about to become very annoyed because it's trying your patience, it's testing your patience. For example, when I'm late for an appointment and I get stuck in traffic, it really tests my patience. It really tries my patience. So often in IELTS we might need to talk about situations where something has happened. So think about situations that may have tried your patience or tested your patience. Did you lose your temper or did you control your temper? So these are very useful phrases for IELTS. Remember, IELTS is a test of language, so you need to go into that exam with as much complex language that you are able to use as possible. Make lists of language that you could use and that you can use in lots of different questions, particularly in part 2. And I think these are very useful. If it's describe a person who, you can say this is a very easygoing person, he very rarely loses his temper. Even if he is in a situation which tests his patience, he remains calm and doesn't get irritated. So for any describe a person, you could use some of these phrases. Hope you found that useful, and thank you very much for watching.